Today we're going to be answering the question, will replacing the O-rings on these solenoids save you some money and also improve the drivability of this engine? And the car we're going to be working on is this M5. This M5 has 245,000 miles. It's my personal car. And with poor VANOS solenoids comes a couple other issues. It can cause you to have poor idle quality, and if you're in a parking lot or you're with buddies, it can be pretty embarrassing because the car can stall out, and if you have a manual, well, it'll make you look like you're an idiot. And the other thing is that if you are driving up the road, you'll hear the exhaust pulsing, and you'll also have crappy torque. So with the S85, you don't have much torque to begin with, and you won't have much mid-range, because that's literally the whole point of the VANOS, is to help you out with mid-range and low-end torque. So here's a video actually showing what the data values are as I drive down the road. I managed to record this to kind of actually perform a visual and show what's going on with the VANOS and why it causes these problems and what the solenoids are trying to do, but they're not able to. All right, so I'm on an uphill. I'm going at a lower speed just to kind of exaggerate this issue. But as I'm going up a hill, this is what this is showing. So you'll look and you'll see your exhaust bank at exhaust bank number 1. It's trying to hold a 96 degree position on the exhaust bank cam, and our actual position is this. So it jumps between 125, 126, which is the max, to back to 87.8. It's not able to hold that position. So this is what can cause some VANOS issues, especially lag and throttle response. It's because the cam's not in the position where it needs to be. It also is the culprit for any type of idle issue that you might have. And this car has a ton of miles, and it's been on the original VANOS solenoid since pretty much the beginning. Okay, now that that's covered, we're going to be going ahead and starting the process of removing the VANOS solenoids. They're actually located here, as I pointed out on the video earlier. Of course, it's easier when it's on a stand, and it's not so easy when it's sitting right in the engine bay. So we're going to have to go ahead and remove. I'm going to remove all these hoses. You don't have to necessarily do it this way, but the VANOS solenoid's actually tucked right behind that hose, and it's below here. Easier on this side, not so easy on that side. So I'm just going to remove the radiator and everything, because I also have to get to my alternator and remove that. It's a lot easier when there's less stuff in front of the engine. Okay, so I've managed to actually get the hoses out without removing the intake manifold, so that saved quite a bit of time. I was able to snake out that. I'm just going to leave this upper hose here because that one's a bit tight in there. These radiators get super dirty, and I wonder if it can show up on the camera. You can kind of see all the dirt that's light up in here. That's one thing that you're going to want to clean if you ever do any work. Might as well clean your radiator, because it accrues like crazy, and that does not help your cooling system. So back to this. One thing is, you can see some of the screws right there. There's a screw right at the top, and actually let me move over to the other engine and I can show it to you guys over there. To remove the VANOS solenoids, there's actually a screw right here. There's one in the back. In order to get to that, let me go ahead and grab the tool, and I can show you what we're gonna need. You're gonna need a long T20, because you're also gonna need to get to the back one, which is over here. This socket will save your ass as far as getting back there, and you'll be good to go. Okay, so now I found out that I actually have to remove the power steering pulley in order to get to those Torx bolts that are holding on to the VANOS on the passenger side bank. So after I removed that pulley, I ended up loosening the pump. I don't know if loosening the pump will actually help you out. I just did it to try it out. But you could probably stick with just removing the pulley and squeezing the Torx bit in there. If you find that you do, then of course do. But this is something that you're going to have to do in order to get to those Torx bolts, and I didn't really cover it during the video, but yeah. All right, so I ended up having to cut a socket. I ended up just using this chop saw and sawing off just a sliver bit of this end bit, and I thought I would include this in the video just to show the length of what I use in order to make this work. And this is mainly for the passenger side, or the right hand side of the car. If you can see, it's about 3¼ inches long, and I also use this Tecton Torx 90 degree like Allen key style wrench. It comes with their whole set. It's a T20. This helped out getting the ones on the passenger side. They're a little bit more cramped. So on the other side, on the driver's side, you have a bit more room, but because of the AC bracket and the power steering bracket, you're gonna need something about this short. So thought I'd at least point that out for this video. Okay, so now comes the fun part of actually taking the solenoid off. You're gonna end up having to pull down and kind of like do a circular motion in order for it to come off. It will be stuck, so just stay in there and just constantly pull. All right, so one thing I did notice is here's the two solenoids pulled out. I actually just put fresh O-rings on this one. Let me see if I can get it to focus. And you can see how much more these protrude rather than these ones. You can tell that these are more flat on this area, and then on this side, they're protruding. Also, the other thing is this spins pretty nice and freely because I cleaned it out with brake clean and I kind of activated it while doing it. I'll see if I can get some footage of it. This one, on the other hand, is pretty bound up, and I don't know if I can hear it on the camera, but there's a little bit of grinding noise. Now if I go to this one, it spins no problem. Next is I'll show how we clean it and everything, and then see if this actually fixes this problem with the idle and everything. Okay, so now is the time to clean these dirty solenoids, and I just used the Lucas parts cleaner when I was doing this, and I just sprayed it, let it unbind, then sprayed it some more and just kind of went through. I left the old O-rings on when I did this just to kind of help out with not damaging the new ones, so just keep note of not putting the new ones on before you go ahead and start doing this. All right, next we're going to do the O-rings, which is pretty easy. Mine were really worn, so they actually ended up snapping in half as I was trying to take them off. That's a really good sign as to why my VANOS solenoids were not responding like they should, and why there was a very hard time to hold those camshafts because everything was just seeping by the O-rings and it wasn't able to actually divert the pressure to anywhere it needs to go. The other thing is that putting them back on, you're just going to put the largest one on first, and then you're going to go to the medium and then to the small. And the sizes that I used were 12.1 by 1.6, 11.1 by 1.6, and 10.1 by 1.6. I will also have all the O-rings sizes in the description. I will include the base O-ring for the actual seal to the head in the description. I don't have that size on me at the time of recording this, so hopefully that helps. Okay, so now I got the VANOS solenoids back inside their respective areas, and just for note, when you're putting them back in, make sure that the orientation of the plug is correct. It probably won't matter because you could spin it, but just I try to keep it back to where it was again. And for intake, you're going to see a green wire here, and exhaust is going to be red, and that's the same for both sides. And just another installation note is when you're getting this back cylinder, or when you get the exhaust bank on the passenger side or right hand side of the vehicle, this one's going to be a bit of a pain. It's going to, just getting that back bolt, you can do it. It's going to take some time, but you can get it, especially if you just have that shortened extension. I had to shorten it a little bit more, and cutting it down to about 3 inches roughly, and that helped out with getting it in this side. This side's more of an issue, mainly just because of the fact that you don't have much clearance between here and the power steering, so getting from there to there, it's just not as feasible as if you were on this side where you have plenty of space below it. So we're gonna go ahead and button this back up. Okay, so now everything is assembled. Put the radiator back on, coolant's all topped off. I hope there's a seal. I kind of pulled the risk here by assembling everything first, but everything's back together. Let's go ahead and get this thing started. We're gonna have to do a couple bleeds, and I'll document that as well. Okay, so now we're finally back in the car, and it looks like I should have a battery charger on it. What I'm planning on doing is I'm gonna do a dry crank. Hopefully I have enough battery to do so. We're gonna go ahead and use a service plan to end up turning off the injectors, and to do that we go over to vehicle management. We go to service functions, powertrain, engine electronics, injection deactivation, start search. Select the function of ABL over to do it, double click. It'll bring us into the injection deactivation, and then it will give us this warning: the fuel injection is deactivated. The next step, first performing, you will prevent the engine from turning on. First make sure your key switch is on, then we will hit next. Fuel injection is deactivated. Now we'll go ahead and crank, and we're gonna go hit next. Service function is finished. Now we're back to normal. I'm gonna give it a start. A little bit of back and forth, but next step will be the bleed process, and we have to wait for it to warm up. So we'll get started on that in a little bit. We're just gonna go ahead and bleed the VANOS system and just see if it changes. All right, so now that that's all completed, pretty much a notable difference. It might not have passed the valve test. So I'm driving it now and it is driving way better than it used to. It used to drive pretty laggy. It felt like, I guess, like a turbo lag in a sense. And I mean, this was the extreme. It was gradually doing this beforehand, but now it's responding. There's a little bit of a lag where it used to be when you're in P400. In P500 Sport, it has no lag at all. So I'd still feel a little bit of it, but I did notice when I pulled up ISTA while driving, and I'll go ahead and show this to you. So what I used to have a problem with was the cam position would actually go all the way down and all the way back up, and right now you can see it holds a position and stays there, and then if I let off, it goes back up right away. Where before it used to have a bit of an issue, and now it's solid. So maybe I need to do a couple pulls in it, and that should actually solve the issues that we've had before. I used to actually hear like a slight chatter from the front VANOS when I would be approaching red line. That's when it's at its worst. It's so many miles, so it lasted a really long time. The VANOS test does give you one thing, but also just the driving manners of replacing the O-rings. It definitely improved it, at least for this car, because it was such a drastic. But those O-rings were definitely bad. So if you're planning on doing this, I would recommend it. If you're experiencing some type of VANOS delay or some type of problem, you might not get all your problems solved, but it's like a $25 fix. Maybe with doing any type of coolant and everything, of course, that's gonna cost about 30 bucks for the gallon. But in my opinion, this job was definitely worth it if you want to save a couple bucks, and also if you want to improve your VANOS system. And honestly, I think this is pretty much a solution. You might not get the perfect idle quality on warm start, but it's definitely better, and it might be improving. It might just need to be driven a bit so the air can leave the system. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys have a good one. And well, if there's any other future content that you want, let me know, and have a great day.